Hello and welcome to the 2018 Social Media Bootcamp. I am Yusuf Mohammadi and I am excited to have you on board. Today, we are going to be looking at social media for financial decision making. And it is a session that I trust will give you quite a lot of useful information, insights, and tools that you can use in your business to enhance your decision making. A quick overview of the session itself. I will introduce you to social media and its applications in your business. We will learn a simple model that you can use to make any decision in your business. I will then explore the decision-making styles that are used by organizations and individuals. Thereafter, we explore how social media can be used to support your decision-making style effectively. We then move on to look at investments and how these decisions can be supported and enhanced through the use of social media. Finally, we conclude by unpacking the financing decisions in business and how social media opens up new opportunities in this regard. So let's get started. In any business, there are thousands of important actions and steps that need to be taken. These actions and steps collectively determine the success or failure of your business. And the decisions that you take each and every day have a major impact on your customers, on your staff, and stakeholders. Ultimately, when any business decision is taken, it comes down to the finances. At the end of it, the success or failure of a decision is ultimately determined by the financial outcomes. In this regard, it is important to note that trying to achieve the financial objectives will always be at the top of mind. And trying to manage your business in such a way that it is effective and efficient would be quite important. Any accountant would know that trying to maximize the return on investment is something that the shareholders of the business would tend to pay attention to, and all of the decisions that are taken should make a positive impact on this. When we are looking at the financial decisions in a business, there are two types of decisions that we will be focusing on. And the first one relates to investments. And these decisions can include whether you should actually make an investment or dispose of one. For example, recently there was a sale of an investment, and this is just a recent article which I came across where Naspers went and sold a part of its 10-cent stake. Another important area relates to the financing side of the business. And here we are looking at whether we should have debt or equity, and how do we really fund our investments. A recent example which I found here was where MTN decided that they were going to raise close to $1.1 billion in debt in Nigeria to actually fund an investment which they were making. So when making a financial decision, you will find that there are four key factors that have to be taken into account. The first one is that you do need a model in place which will guide the way your decision is being made. You need to take into account the style of the person or the organization itself in terms of how they wish to make a decision, because their own personal style also tends to influence it. The type of the decision being made is also quite important. And lastly, the data that is being used for the decision itself will also have an impact on the quality of the outcome. So this brings us to social media. And social media opens up a new universe when it comes to financial decisions in the business. Because for a start, it supports any decision-making model that you have. It's flexible, it is intuitive, and it immediately adds a lot of value to any model that you have in your organization. Social media also gives you the tools to increase the capabilities of the decision maker. This is quite valuable because it helps the decision maker to have access to tools that were previously not available. Another advantage of social media is that it tends to provide a lot of data that a decision maker can use to reach a decision that is going to be substantiated and justified, and at the end of the day is a quality one. And I think this short quotation really tends to sum it up, that social media at the end of the day gives you the data to ensure that your decisions are fact-based, and also allows you to go and challenge the status quo that might have been there for a long time. In doing so, the organization is able to get in touch with what is truly taking place and to make a decision that really speaks to the realities of the organization and the marketplace. Another benefit of social media is that it allows the organization and the decision maker to access the wisdom of the crowd. For the first time, you are no longer confined to only dealing with a few people inside your organization to understand and to actually obtain information. You can now access the wisdom of thousands of people online who can actually assist and contribute to a decision that you are trying to make. In certain respects, it can also be a game changer for the decisions that are being made in the organization, and I will share more about this later in the session. So let's move on to understanding a simple model that can be used for making a decision in any business. And this is a simple basic model that can be used for your decisions, and it's quite straightforward and easy to implement. So the model itself starts off with the first step, where you have to be able to go and define your challenges or the issues that you are trying to resolve. That is the first step. And once you have done that, you can then identify the objectives that you are trying to achieve and begin to then go and find and analyze what are the options available that will help you to achieve your objectives. And finally, after that, you should be in a position where you can weigh up each of the options and select what is the best option for your organization, taking into account, of course, what is the risk factors that would obviously have an impact on your decision. This model, as I said, is a straightforward, easy to implement, and can be used for almost any decision that you have to make in your organization. As you will see later, social media tends to be flexible enough to help you at each of the stages in this model. In doing so, social media can actually contribute a lot of data to the model, because as you work through each of the 4 steps, you can tap into social media to actually generate a lot of the data that you would need. And by trying to access the wisdom of the crowd, you are able to engage with different stakeholders at each stages of the model who can contribute to the decision that you are making. We now move on to having an understanding of the decision-making styles that apply in an organization and also apply to the individual that is responsible for a decision. So if you have to look at the organizational style, there would be 3 types of styles that are used. It would be a top-down style, a for down-up, and a group style. And we will discuss each of them, and then also look at how you can make use of social media tools to enhance your organizational style that is there. So the first one is the top-down organizational style, where, for example, you would have a CFO who makes a decision and then communicates it to the workforce and expects it to be implemented. With this organizational style, the direction is top-down. Social media can be used to support this organizational style, because you could, for example, create an internal for Twitter type stream that can be used to communicate such a decision. And then employees are given the opportunity to have a conversation about how they would then implement it. It is possible to set up your own for Twitter type stream using many social media tools, but one such example would be the Mastodon, which is a social media tool which allows you to go and develop and host your own for Twitter type stream internally inside your organization for your staff. You can try it now for yourself by going to set up a Mastodon site for yourself. And this will allow you to create a Twitter type stream in your organization. There is no cost for you to start one. And to do so, you would simply have to go and visit their website. And if you sign up, you could get started in a few minutes. So I suggest that you try that out, and it could be quite a useful tool for your organization if you have a top-down organizational style. So moving on, the next organizational style is one which is from down to the top. And in this case, the direction of the information starts at the bottom and tends to move upwards. So a simple example would be where the financial administrator makes a decision and communicates it to the finance team. You could use social media in this case to create a team hub that would be used to communicate a decision and to allow the team to have a conversation about how they could implement it. A good social media tool that could be used, for example, would be Slack. And Slack gives you the opportunity to connect all the members in your team for you to share the information and the decision which has been taken, to have a conversation about it, and also for the team to then work and to try to assist each other to implement a decision that has been taken. So Slack would be a good tool to use for this. The third organizational style is the one where a decision is taken by the group. And in this case, the direction of the information moves from top down, and it also moves from a bottom up. So there's a two-way flow of information in this case. And a good example here would be where the board would tend to review a submission that has been made, and they then make a decision and would go and communicate it to the CEO. You could use social media in this case to create a private, secure online group, which would consist of the board, and they would work on their own to actually go through a submission which has been in there, and for them to then reach a decision. They could also give access to a few other people outside of the board where they feel that there is a need to engage with them about a decision. And again, in terms of the social media tools which you could use, Slack would be a good tool that decision, and how their individual style tends to work, and also how social media can enhance their capabilities. So the good thing about this is that social media can work with all individual styles, and it can really enhance your capabilities in this regard. I will be sharing with you 4 styles, and we will unpack each of them and look at the social media tools that can assist you in this regard. The 4 styles are a decisive one, a flexible one, a hierarchy, and the integrative style. So the first individual style is a decisive one, and in this case, your focus is really upon time. You're looking to take one course of action. You want to act quickly. There's a sense of urgency. You want to stick to the plan. You may not have all the information that you need. You might be highly stressed, and you really just want to get things done in the shortest possible time. You will often find this taking place in an organization where there is a crisis or there is some major thing that needs to be resolved. And in this case, they don't really have too much time, and they need to know exactly what to do to be able to address that. So how can social media help the person that uses a decisive style? And a simple example here would be to go and set up a WhatsApp group. So there is a WhatsApp application for business, and essentially what this allows you to do is that you could set up a WhatsApp group, which could then be used to ensure that there is emotional support and also for technical support when you don't have too much of time on your hands, but you need to quickly make a decision and take action upon it. Our second style that is used by individuals is the flexible one. And the flexible one has a focus on speed and on being adaptable. In this case, you might have a need to go and change the course of action over time, and you might have to also try to get more information to be able to actually take certain actions. You might also have to make certain changes because as new information comes to light, you would have to relook at what you want to do and how you want to do it. And often this tends to take place in the finance department where, if you're thinking about it at the end of your financial year, or if you're thinking about it in the course of preparing your budget. In these cases, there might be a need to make last-minute changes, and you might have to be adaptable and flexible to that. Again, social media can assist the individual that has a flexible style. A simple example of this would be where social media tends to contribute by ensuring that you have the technical support that you need so that you can still act in a speedy way and you can adapt on the fly. A good example of this is that SAP has a community where they tend to support SAP users. And this is their website, and if you notice on the website, they have blogs, they also have a Q&A, they have a wiki, and the aim is to try to support the users in a way that is going to be useful and beneficial to them, while also ensuring that they can make the decisions that they need to actually take. The third individual style is the hierarchy, where the focus is on the information. In this case, you just want to reach one decision, and that's the decision that you're going to stick with and you plan to implement. To do so, you need to analyze a lot of information from a lot of sources to be able to find what's the best decision at the end of the day. And of course, a good example that you might already know of is where you have to prepare a financial forecast, or you're making a decision about an investment as to whether you should purchase or sell. And at the end of it, you need to be able to go through a lot of information, understand it, analyze it, and come up with a decision as to exactly what you are going to do. In this situation, social media can assist you because it can generate a lot of information from lots of social networks in a short space of time. A good example of a social media tool that you can get started with now would be going onto Google and setting up the alerts for those things that you want to keep a close watch on. I suggest that you try this now, where you can go onto Google to actually set up the alerts by simply focusing upon any of the search terms or the keywords that you are trying to actually track or follow that could be useful for a decision that you wish to take. And there is no charge to do this. All that you have to do is you just have to log onto Google, and you then identify the keywords that you actually want to try to track or to follow. And in this example, you will see that I've decided I want to track for Sasol. And as soon as I type it in to create the alert, at the bottom, it immediately begins to show me all the content and the updates relating to activities of the organization. And this can be quite useful for any decision which I'm planning to take, where I need to try to have access to as much information as I can in the shortest possible time. And Google will even email this information to you on a daily basis if you need it. So it's quite a useful tool that I suggest you use. And lastly, the fourth individual style is the integrative one, where again you are focusing on the information, but the difference here is that you're looking at multiple issues and you're dealing with a lot of information from lots of sources for lots of options. So in this situation, you try to be very flexible as you begin to get hold of the information. And you keep adjusting exactly what you want to do until your time is up and you're finally required to actually then take a call as to what you're going to do. So with the integrative approach, You are constantly analyzing, evaluating, also changing your course of action, and eventually you then take a decision which you believe is the best one, taking into account all the work that you've done up to that stage. So you find this tends to happen quite often with your finance executives, where they are required to tend to deal with very complicated issues, and they have to often be able to really understand it, analyze it, and sometimes they might have to make changes right up to the day of having an important meeting with the board, for example. Social media can really assist you in this case because you can make use of all the social media tools which I have already highlighted. So, for example, you could make use of WhatsApp, where they have a business application here, which would then allow you to try to connect with the other stakeholders. You could also log in to SAP and take advantage in terms of the community which they have over there. You could make use of Google. So a lot of the tools which are available would then be used, and that could then support you to be able to make a decision that would be the best one. So hopefully you are able to see that the flexibility of social media is that it can really support any organizational style. It can also support the individual style in terms of your decision and what you're being required to do. And by tapping into the tools that are available, it will increase your capabilities in a short space of time. I have only shared with you a few social media tools, but there are hundreds of social media tools which are available to assist you to be able to take a decision in the best possible way. So let's move on, and the next section is going to be looking at investments. Now, in many organizations, there are important and sometimes very tough times when a decision has to be made about the investments that they are required to actually make. And this could include investments in the assets on a long-term basis, and there might be a for capital budget, which is being prepared perhaps for 1 year or for 3 years or even for 5 years, where you're trying to actually work out as to what are the long-term investments that you need to make. Or you could be looking at investments in your assets on a short-term basis, which is normally trying to ensure that your working for capital budget would be quite steady and can also be supportive of what the business actually needs. Social media also brings a new lens to the way you begin to look at any of the investments which you want to undertake, because it just tends to bring a lot more information and support that was previously not available. So let us look at a simple example here. And let's just say that your organization is deciding whether they should purchase shares in Vodacom or not. And of course, you would do your normal analysis. So you would go and look at the financial statements. You would go and look at the business. You would do a proper business analysis. And there is a lot of information which you could go and look at. For the purpose of this example, though, I'm just trying to focus upon how social media can try to contribute to your decision that you are making. So one of the things which you would do is that you could go and set up a Google one to try to keep up to date, as to all the developments that are happening here. And let's just say that you found an article on which then makes you think, as to whether you would want to invest in Vodacom or not. And this article, for example, looks at BEE and Vodacom and looks at how that had an impact upon their share price and led to a sell-off. Now, while the article might be useful, social media allows you to go far deeper than just the analysis and the information in the article itself. Because if you scroll down to the bottom of the article, you will then find that there's a lot of information which is being shared by the people that have been actually following this article and want to share their own views on it. So as you can see, for example, here, there is a comment which has been posted, and you can also see on the left-hand side, there are quite a few social media links, which also allows for the article or the comments to be shared on social media for platforms. Now, if you have to go through this information where you're not just focusing upon the actual content of the article, but you're also looking at what other people are saying about it, you can often find some really useful gems which come out of these discussions. And sometimes this can also be quite valuable for the analysis that you are undertaking. So, for example, if you had to go on for Twitter and look at what was also said about the same topic, again, here is a person, who has went and posted on for Twitter and shared their thoughts about it. And what you will notice is that that tweet has already been shared, and there are close to 36 people who also like it. And you could go and then follow those people who have also liked this tweet to get even more information and analysis about it. In doing so, this can contribute to the quality of the decision that you want to make. It can also allow you to go and dig up new information that you might not have actually thought about. And lastly, you can tap into the wisdom of the crowd, because you could also go and participate in the discussion if you wanted to, and to go share your thoughts and get immediate feedback from other people who are also looking at what is taking place in the company, and also trying to establish, as to whether it would be a good investment or not. So there's a lot of value that comes out of social media when you are looking at any decision as to whether you should invest in the long term or the short term. Because social media just now allows you to tap into the wisdom of the crowd, to go and generate a lot more data and just get a better perspective on the investment that you would not find in the annual financial statements. So there was a study that was done in 2015, and this was an international study, and they actually found that about 48% of the investors said that information which they came across on social media actually assisted them to go and undertake additional research. So I thought that was quite valuable, and I just wanted to also share it with you. Another area where social media can be a game changer for your business relates to your financing side of the business. And of course, when you are looking at your decisions, this often comes down to the combination of the equity or debt that you wish to use in your business, as well as the sources of finance that you tend to turn to. And again, with social media, it just allows you so much more options and opportunities that was not available in the past. So social media also opens up a new source of funding. And in this regard, let us just look at a simple example. Let's just say that your organization wanted to raise 1 million rand in 60 days. And you are trying to work out as to what is the quickest, fastest, cheapest way for you to go and do that. And while you could go and try to apply for a bank loan or look for any of those sources in terms of the funding, social media actually will give you access to the crowd to go and fund it. So crowdfunding is something which has actually blasted onto the scene in the past few years. And I'm just going to share with you a short video that will explain crowdfunding as to exactly for what it is, how it works, and also how you can participate in it. So let me just show you a short video clip to explain it.
Meet Bill, Steve and Warren, an entrepreneur, a startup and a small businessman. They all have practical money-making and job-creating ideas to create new businesses and help make a better community. But they need money or a loan to fund and build their ideas. How can they raise the money to create this business, and what is the roadmap? The most common method is to get a loan from a bank. But banks consider startup entrepreneurial ventures too risky, especially now with the economic downturn and today's restrictive lending policies. Then the answer is usually a big no. Clearly, this way there is very little new business development, innovation or growth. Just think of business and the world without the Bills, Steves and the Warrens. Currently, an entrepreneur needs a business plan and a loan application, then a drive to the bank to meet with the loan officers in the hope of getting a loan. But not anymore. Through the internet, using cloud and social media environments, the entrepreneur can access hundreds or thousands of potential investors through crowdfunding websites. There are several ways to seek crowdfunding. The first is the donation method of crowdfunding. This model has been around for years. People can donate money in small increments to a project which they believe has moral and ethical value and that is good for the community. Examples of this are asking for donations on Facebook causes or GoFundMe. The second is the pre-order method of crowdfunding. Here people make online pledges during a campaign to pre-buy the product for later delivery. A good example of this is Kickstarter. The third is the reward-based method of crowdfunding. This is a variation on the two previous types, where investors get the satisfaction of helping and immediately get a predetermined reward or item of value, but no equity or ownership. A good example of this is Indiegogo. And finally, the fourth is equity-based crowdfunding. This is the newest model, which will allow large numbers of regular people like you and me to invest small amounts each online to fund early startups with the expectation to receive dividends or investment appreciation based on profits of the business. So now we can see that crowdfunding is using the crowd to raise capital by connecting people with talent, ideas and some neat stuff to sell with those that have the funds to invest their way, thus creating jobs, new business opportunities and fueling the economy. Crowdfunding revenue is projected to top $2.8 billion in 2012 and more than $16.6 billion in 2014. The speed of growth of crowdfunding from 2009 to 2014 is very similar to the
So I hope that you found that short video to be useful in understanding how crowdfunding actually works. And again, you can get started with crowdfunding immediately because it's quite straightforward and easy for you to go and do. So I suggest that you try it now. You can go onto this website, which is thunderfund.com. And you can actually start to go and find for projects for funding, or you could even submit one of your own. It's a great way to actually begin to tap into the crowd and to be able to fund any projects that you are planning to undertake. So the key thing is that if you plan to use crowdfunding for your organization, is that it's important to try to develop your social platform, because this will ensure that you have sufficient followers who are passionate about your organization, who want to purchase your products and your